so today we need a hero. We're looking for a hero. That hero is going to be David, even though no one is aware of that, including David himself. But there's some really good information here, good practical truth in regards to our opportunity to be a hero and maybe more appropriately to accomplish something significant on behalf of the Lord. And all of that kind of here covered before he ever is engaged with the enemy. All that the groundwork that's laid prior to here in 1 Samuel 17, verses 12 through 37. So it says, now David was the son of an Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah named Jesse, who had 8 sons. Now we already know this information, right? We've already learned this prior when David was anointed. But for whatever reason, the writer giving us a refresher on just who David is. In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. That's speaking of Jesse. Not Saul, not David. It's speaking of Jesse. And the 3 oldest sons of Jesse had followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and third Shammah. Now from historical information, I don't think it's contained in Scripture, but we know that the age for fighting was 20 for Israel. And so probably the reason that these 3 are mentioned and there aren't any others is probably they were the 3 oldest, which they are, and were probably the 3 that were within that age when it would be expected that you would be serving on the battlefield. And so Eliab, Abinadab, and Shammah all there on the battlefield. David was the youngest. The 3 eldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. So why is he going back and forth? He's not in the army, right? He's going back and forth because remember, he was called to serve Saul, to play the music for him, to calm him down. And so he is in some way serving Saul with these trips back and forth between the battlefield and home. And so he's going home to feed the sheep. For 40 days, the Philistine came forward and took his stand morning and evening. Now, interesting there, 40 days. When we hear the term 40 days, what do we think of? What's that? Where else is that? What else do we associate with that in Scripture? There's, in fact, not just one time. There's multiple times where that's a significant amount of time. The flood. The flood was 40 days, right? Jesus in the wilderness. Anything else? Yeah, I don't know. I don't recall that. That's in my message Bible. Okay. and so anyway, 40 days usually a time of testing, time of trial, and so maybe in some way that with Saul coming out Goliath coming out and taunting them for 40 days. This is going on. And so for 40 days the Philistine came forward and took his stand morning and evening. And Jesse said to David his son, "Take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well and bring some token from them." Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. And I would say at this point really not doing too much fighting. They're just standing across kind of hollering taunts at one another. So what do you think? If the Philistines have the giant, which we got to think is giving them some type of advantage in the upcoming battle, if they've got the giant, why are we doing this prolonged challenge that goes on for 40 days? What would be the reason for that? Betty? To humiliate them. Okay, to humiliate them. Because that certainly is part of his agenda, is to really mock them and humiliate them. Rob?
When they're on the valley, Israelites uphill on one side, Philistines be uphill on the other side. Whoever goes in the valley is the ultimate target.
Okay, so we're not wanting to take the first step, not wanting to be the one who put themselves in a position of vulnerability first, certainly could be the case. Here's the other thing, is it the moment that they engage in war, no matter how well you're prepared for that battle, people are going to die. It's going to be painful and difficult. And so if we can convince these people just to surrender, or send out one person so I can battle that one person, and only one person has to die. And so maybe just trying to save some lives, prevent from experiencing the pain of war that's about to come upon them. And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper and took the provisions and went, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle line, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. And David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage and ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before. And David heard him. And the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. So what is the purpose in the reward that's been offered to the soldier who kills Goliath? Easy answer here. What's the reason for that? Yeah, trying to get somebody that would be willing to take the risk. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get all this stuff. You're going to get one of Saul's daughters. You're going to be wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. So in some way, convincing somebody to take on the task of taking on Goliath. And David said to the men who stood by him, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? Now, do you find it interesting that they just told him what was going to be done for the man who took care of Goliath? And David asks a question. And he asks a question that seems like they just answered, doesn't it? They just told him the guy that takes care of him is going to get wealth beyond measure, one of Saul's daughters as a wife. And then he asks what seems to be the same question. But is it the same question? What shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? What is David's concern? It's Israel. It's the reproach. It's the shame of Israel. It isn't all the other things that would go along with it. He really doesn't seem like he's so much interested in reward. He wants to deal with this person who's attacking Israel and ultimately the God of Israel. That's his concern. As opposed to, boy, to the guy that gets this, that's a swell reward. That would be awesome to have all that stuff. That's not what he's worried about. He's worried about God's name. For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him in the same way. So shall it be done to the man who kills him. He said, we already told you. You're going to get all this stuff. You're going to get all these amazing rewards for that. Now, Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? Now, he's angry at him. Maybe he's angry just as any big brother would be that his little brother has put himself in a place of danger. But it seems like it goes deeper than that, to the degree that he even kind of like implies that David really doesn't have very big responsibilities. I mean, why point out that it's a few sheep, not the sheep, not the herd, it's a few sheep. So he's diminishing what David is normally doing. and mocking him in some way. And again, part of that might be he's just concerned for his baby brother who's put himself in an area of danger. Why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, what have I done now? Was it not but a word? He's saying, I just said these things. I didn't do anything at this point. But Eliab is questioning his motives, and he believes, it seems, that his motives are that he's just there to kind of to gawk on the scene, to watch what's going on, not really be involved in any kind of encounter, any kind of battle, but to just watch what's happening in the course of the battle. And so Eliab attacking David for that reason. Verse 17, and he turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way. And the people answered him again as before. And so these guys aren't giving David much slack. When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul. And he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. So David has been, or Saul has been looking for somebody to do this, to take on the Philistine. He obviously, as the commander of the army, hasn't told anybody that you have to go. He's been, at this point, asking for volunteers, probably because it would have been so intimidating, so improbable for victory, that he didn't have that expectation for anybody. And so here comes David, and he says, I'll go and fight this guy. And so verse 33. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth. So there's two kind of things that he points out there that are a problem, at least from Saul's perspective, that he's young. You're too young to fight this battle. And the second thing is that his opponent is a man of war, a man who has a lot of experience in war, which David doesn't. And so he's kind of questioning his age, the fact that he's young, and the fact that he lacks experience. And he is standing against a champion, as he's described here. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock. And so David's going to give the reason to Saul why he can be trusted, why he is capable to take on the enemy here. I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. And so David looks back in his past, and he recalls his time. Remember, several weeks ago, we looked at how we're prepared in the wilderness, prepared in the pasture, and he remembers this time. In fact, there's multiple occasions where he has taken on bears and lions in defense of his sheep. And so he's saying, I have this experience. I have taken on the enemies before. And then he says this guy has defied the armies of the living God. This is worse than getting one of my sheep. This guy is defying the armies of the living God. Verse 37, and David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you.